All right, today we're going to talk about Pluto and Neptune, the Voyager missions, and the black hole that surrounds our solar system, forcing the controllers of this world to establish a new simulation, a new world with wondrous possibilities for them and more enslavement for us if we don't educate ourselves and stand our ground. But before we get into today's content, please take a moment to comment below what you'd like to see next. Would you like to learn more about our origins from my perspective, how we ended up here in the first place? Would you want to hear more about the mechanics of the Matrix and how to navigate its various levels? Or should we just dive straight into the solutions? You don't really care how we got here or what's going on in the world. Just tell us how we get out of this mess. I've got a lot of material lined up, but let's get some audience engagement. Comment below what topic you'd like to see next. In Crimes of the Gods, I laid the foundation that a black hole surrounds our entire solar system, has engulfed Pluto, and is currently ripping Neptune apart. This is because the criminals that run our world pose as gods and keep humanity in confusion about how we even got here, longing for answers to why there is so much suffering and what life even means, forcing us into a state of submission and powerlessness, slaving away for corporations, corrupt governments, and false gods. Think about how people worship in churches and temples. Their hands reach into the air, stretching, yearning like children wanting to be carried. Take me, Lord. Lift me up, out of here. That's because there's something in us all that knows that something isn't right about us being here, trapped in a limited state with limited perception and no memory of our origins and true potential. Well, that's because you're right. This is very wrong, and the days of being subject to murderous, jealous, manipulative gods is over. When the rulers and false gods realized their illegal operation was getting shut down, they scrambled to rapidly industrialize our lives, create a world-wide web, and set the stage to immerse the world in the next simulation. Well, that had some unintended consequences. The gods tried to carefully monitor humanity's progress during this rapid industrialization, but the petty squabbles and age-old animosity between warring human factions allowed something diabolical to slip through, something the gods haven't witnessed in thousands of years, something they thought they'd never witness again. The detonation of nuclear weapons. The bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 sent a ripple throughout space-time, a signal to the future and the past. The so-called gods couldn't figure it out at first. How could our hidden location be discovered? We had submerged ourselves into subspace, a cube the size of a Planck constant, completely undetectable. Now they knew. It was rather ironic. In their efforts to rapidly revolutionize our world and create the next simulation to escape the black hole, while keeping humanity trapped in conflict and violence, they unknowingly ended up causing the very signal burst that allowed galactic authorities to pinpoint their location, pinpoint where the hostages, us, are being held. This is called a looped phenomenon, or time paradox, where you end up becoming the cause of an effect observed in the past. It was also downright embarrassing. Who gave the hominids nuclear weapons? This is why U.S. Admiral Richard Byrd was reprimanded by the underworld lords during his post-World War visit to Antarctica. They sternly told him, "We are very disappointed in humanity's use of atomic weapons." Operation Highjump was cut short, and Admiral Byrd's fleet was sent home with their tail between their legs. Not long after did the age of official UFO sightings begin, with reports of alien craft deliberately powering down nuclear weapons facilities and air bases. This is documented fact. It's on NASA's Unexplained Files here on YouTube. And again, the U.S. House Oversight Committee held a hearing just last summer confirming UAPs because they have to. It's time. It's about to be alarmingly obvious that we're not alone and have never been. You see, World War II and the Cold War weren't just wars between earthly superpowers. It was a war between humanity and the gods. If you haven't already, please watch Crimes of the Gods and my most recent video on the soul, counterfeit spirits, and ultra-secret societies for some background info. Because the black hole closing in on this simulation not only rapidly changed our lives socioeconomically, but it also had grave geopolitical consequences. In my last video, I stated that the Nazis not only infiltrated the US government and military, as was declassified in Operation Paperclip, but Nazis infiltrated Russia's government and military as well, right after their supposed defeat in World War II. And I'm not the only one who picked up on this. Pretty much every US president since Truman has been deathly aware of the Nazis' top-secret puppeteering of global superpowers, primarily the United States and Russia. They launched us into a space age in order to trace the progress of the encroaching black hole. Among other things, President Kennedy decided to call out these top-secret societies, as we know from his famous speech, and the hierarchy's international collusions. He paid for that with his life. You don't dare challenge the hierarchy, no matter who you think you are. 10 days before his assassination, Kennedy used his executive authority as President of the United States to order NASA, who he knew was run by Nazis, to share UFO data with the Soviet Union. Why would he do that? In intelligence communities, this is known as an indirect disclosure tactic. You know Group A is secretly colluding with Group B, so you publicly declare, hey, Group A, you know, I think it would be a great idea if you were together with Group B, especially on sensitive, clandestine topics like UFOs. That was the last straw. He thought he was protected. He knew he was walking on a bit of thin ice being an Irish American, but he's only Celtic on his father's side. On his mother's side, he's a Fitzgerald. That's Germanic. They were Anglo-Normans who moved up into Ireland and are associated with the Tuatha De Danann, the tribe of Dan, or Snake Clan, depicted below. St. Patrick didn't drive away any snakes from Ireland. They just went underground. You see, native Irish people are placed lower on the hierarchy, which is why Irish people were historically treated very poorly. So you can imagine the joy and triumph when an Irish American was elected president. But the hierarchy is very strict and doesn't take kindly to affronts. You sit in that White House, or the Kremlin, or the royal thrones and do as you're told. He refused. Watch this documentary clip from the Science Channel. There'll be a link in the description. So what were they up to? The goal was to get instruments out there to collect empirical data about our space environment and definitively settle whether or not a black hole is closing in on us from all directions, or if it's just a solitary black hole just hanging out at one edge of the solar system, causing changes in the orbits of the icy bodies, but overall no threat to us. The experiment was simple. Send the probes off into different directions out beyond the solar system. If there's nothing to worry about, the Voyager probes will keep drifting off into infinite space. But if indeed there is a boundary, an event horizon all around us, then the Voyager probes will be the first to detect this, and the secret societies will decide what they want to do with that information. So, in 2012, NASA received the signal from Voyager 1 that it had crossed the boundary of the solar system a year prior, and is heading into the interstellar medium. In 2019, NASA received confirmation that Voyager 2 also reached the outskirts of the solar system in 2018. In recent years, Voyager 1 has been sending back static and gibberish. NASA scientists at the Jet Propulsion Lab claim they don't know why. Could be an instrumental malfunction. They do know why. Voyager 1 met its end with the black hole, which they fully anticipated. They wanted it to, so they could measure how quickly the black hole was closing in and get an idea of what time frame we're looking at for when it starts affecting Earth. Initially, the Voyager probes had enough power on board to remain operational till 2036, let's say. However, back in 2012, when they got that signal from Voyager 1 and saw the event horizon with their own eyes, they moved the schedule up. Both spacecraft will now cease operations by 2025. I mean, why not? What's the point? They have the data they need. They can't justify using NASA's budget to pretend to keep the project going for another decade. They instead want to shift the focus of their budget on the next simulation, and I'll substantiate that shortly. First, let's take a look at their trajectory. So we have Voyager 2 launching off there, and then Voyager 1 launching in 1977. This is official NASA YouTube Voyager 1 and 2 trajectory. Voyager 2 launched first. Voyager 1 launched second, but Voyager 1 is faster than Voyager 2, so we're going to see here Voyager 1 overtaking Voyager 2 in a moment. Alright, so you see it there, Voyager 1 overtaking Voyager 2. So as Voyager 1 leads, they're heading through the asteroid belt, and they're going to meet Jupiter. There's Jupiter. Voyager 1 is going to meet it first and use gravity assist to shift direction. And then Voyager 2 next. There it goes. So they shifted course. Voyager 1 is going to meet Saturn and take some pictures and change course. Voyager 2 will use Saturn for gravity assist as well and go to the outer gas giants. Voyager 1 moved up into the solar system plane, and we'll see later Voyager 2 moving down. And again, this is so that they can see what's around the solar system. So there's Voyager 1 near the turn of the millennium, passing through the edge of the solar system. And you'll see as well Voyager 2's path down. All right, and again, they did this to confirm that the black hole was all around us and not just some isolated rogue black hole off in the distance that we may not need to worry about. So how did they know to even do this? It all started with astronomer Percival Lowell in the late 19th into early 20th century. Several astronomers noticed the unusual changes in the orbits of Neptune and Uranus. Something magnificent was tugging at the edge of the known solar system, and Percival Lowell dubbed it Planet X, because he thought he'd discover a massive planet responsible for this strange phenomenon. But he didn't. His team calculated several possible coordinates for where Planet X could be. Could be here, could be there, Could be over here. Oh, it could also be all the way over there. It almost seemed like it could be anywhere, because it was everywhere, all around us. But he didn't know that yet. But what he did know was the occult. You see, Percival Lowell was part of the Boston Brahmins, the elite upper class of New England, shown here in his bio. See my 3 Pyramids video for more info on the Brahmins and the hierarchy. He was also part of the Delta Kappa Epsilon fraternity while at Harvard, a rather controversial club that likes to stir up mayhem on Ivy League campuses. He also wrote Occult Japan when he traveled to Asia. I haven't read this yet, but I'm going to, and I definitely look forward to it. The point is, he wasn't looking for Pluto or Hades, although it's clear to me he was privy to knowledge of the underworld. Pluto was quote-unquote discovered after he died. I use quotes because Pluto wasn't actually discovered. It was postulated mathematically based on Lowell's Planet X predictions. Something 5 to 10 times the mass of the Earth was pulling the edge of our solar system. In the 1930s, they took a very faint, very pixelated image of the real Pluto, and by the 40s calculated that it could not be Lowell's Planet X. It was way too small. As you can see here in the table, the mass estimates for Pluto kept going down and down over the years. And I saw, while out of body, that it was during this 1948 to 1978 gap that Pluto was swallowed up by the black hole, which more and more astronomers are agreeing the Planet X is not a planet, it's a black hole, which is why it's so massive, but our cameras, which need light, can't see it. But in the 90s, there was a cover-up. Towards the bottom here, it says in 1992, astronomer Miles Standish used data from Voyager 2's 1989 Neptune flyby, did some recalculations, and said, nope, there's no Planet X. Everyone can go home, nothing to see here. What? I highly doubt Percival Lowell mistakenly detected a 7 Earth mass-sized object. But they had to close this case to the public because they knew Pluto was destroyed, and they didn't want people connecting the dots. NASA answers to the International Astronomical Union, or the IAU, another one of these globalist bureaucrat agencies. And I looked up this Miles Standish, or Erlen Miles Standish Jr., who works at the Jet Propulsion Lab and went to Yale and Wesleyan University, like his father, shown here, who was a frat boy. He was part of the Atwater Club and a member of the Beta Theta Pi, another controversial group like the one Percival Lowell belonged to. I couldn't find info on Junior because these days they do a good job at keeping this stuff hidden. But usually, if Daddy was a frat boy, Junior is also most likely involved because they go by bloodlines. But in the last decade, they had to reopen the case. You can't keep something this astronomical a secret, and the growing consensus is that this thing is a black hole. But you know how they do. Just like how they renamed UFOs to UAPs, they renamed Planet X as Planet 9, with Caltech astronomers Konstantin Batygin and Mike Brown leading the investigation. Towards the bottom of this article, they confirm again that it's 5 to 10 Earth masses, and that its orbit is 4 to 800 AUs all around us. But in 2021, they saw it was getting closer, orbiting at about 380 AU. Then they quickly changed it back to the 400s range. But no. I see what you did there. That black hole is closing in, and they don't want a paper trail of measurements showing 400, 300, 200, oh no. So they yank it back to 400 because, again, They don't want people connecting the dots and seeing the big picture of what's going on here. Because if you did, then you'd demand to know why, and why we weren't told. And they don't want to have to answer to you. They'd rather just quietly build their luxury underground bunkers while orchestrating this obvious, controlled demolition of Western civilization as they prepare for the shift into hyperspace. So let's study the images that have been officially published for Pluto. There on the top left, you see the very pixelated image from the Lowell Observatory. And then the next one from Hubble. Uh-oh, what's going on there? You guys, this is exactly what I saw out of body. As the black hole approached Pluto, it ripped off its planetary crust, and Pluto was engulfed in flames and consumed. Meanwhile, I just found this picture online when preparing this presentation. I saw Pluto's demise years ago, and it looked just like that. A grand finale, a burst of brilliant flame before being extinguished. These next images of Pluto, I call BS. They look lopsided, oval-shaped, rocky. And when we finally get to the last digitally edited New Horizons image that we all saw, heart-shaped Pluto, okay, you expect me to believe that this perfectly round ice ball is the same as the third or fourth images on the top? That last one is not Pluto. That's sensationalism. I highly recommend you get a copy of The Pluto Files by Neil deGrasse Tyson and read between the lines. He's telling you as carefully as he can without telling you. I know people are on his case because he debunks and debates the conspiracy theorists. He has to, okay? He studies the occult. He said so in an interview. He said it was to understand how esoterists think, but he knows, you guys. His hero, Isaac Newton, was an alchemist. His mentor, Carl Sagan, wrote a whole book on the Dracos. Look it up. So he knows, you guys. He knows. And I'm going to play a clip shortly where he gets NASA to blatantly announce what they're up to. Neil was the one who fought to get Pluto off the planetary roster. Because if it was up to NASA and the IAU, they weren't going to say anything. They were going to have us keep believing that everything was fine till the very end. Neil was the one who fought for this kind of sort of disclosure. And who knows? Maybe he'll also be the one to make up some reason why Neptune's not a planet anymore. Because Neptune's rings are deteriorating, and the black hole sheds away Neptune's clouds as we speak. I see Neptune completely engulfed by the end of the year. But of course, they're not going to tell you that. But then, they also do tell you? It's strange. I'll leave a link in the description where they literally tell you their plan. That a black hole's approaching, and they're going underground. And it's while they're underground that they'll prepare for the next simulation. And I'll explain how in a bit. So, you can pause it and study this image for a bit. NASA's official explanation for this is, oh, there's nothing to worry about. This is normal. The 11-year solar cycle must be periodically depleting the clouds. That's not what I see here. And the older images of Neptune from Voyager 2 showed abundant clouds back in the 80s. No sign whatsoever of periodic depletion. Plus, this chart shows over 2 decades. I don't see an up and down trend or pattern. I see a gradual diminishing. The clouds are gone. The rings are gone. And you know, the date that they show you isn't current. That last image is probably what it looked like years ago. When I go out of body, I see Neptune rumbling real time. And by the end of this year, we'll be down to 7 planets. Science Unbound posted a YouTube video a couple years ago titled, "What would happen if a black hole entered our solar system?" And he said, quote, "The black hole would start sucking up all the gas from the outer gas giant planets, which would be a terrible portent of things to come." So what's the plan? Here's the clip I was referring to earlier, straight from the horse's mouth.
The idea behind it is to put people into a simulation, basically pretending to be on Mars and doing all the activities associated.
You guys can make anything happen.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be in the description. But how? How will they achieve this? They are trying to reach the technological singularity before the singularity of the black hole reaches us. The technological singularity is the merging of mind and machine. The machine's ready, but what they still need is a mind powerful enough to bend the very fabric of space and time. You see, we exist in the mind of God, and that so-called God is from a civilization that itself exists within the mind of another god. And now they search for the next god mind, the Christos, who will take us into the next age. Remember how in Matrix 4 they used Neo to build the next Matrix? Because he's the one. They used his mind as the portal when he merged with the machine. So let's get an introduction to how this works. What is the mind? Neuropsychologists will tell you we don't know what the mind is. They do. They do. It all starts in the center point, the dot, the bindu or the monad, the Buddha mind, a 0 point of pure, non-judgmental base awareness. From that emerges the ring, or halo, which allows us to have memory. The reason why we are sentient and aware of ourselves is because a ring of conscious energy rapidly spins around our heads, so that we constantly remember who we are and what we've learned at any given moment. This ring of memory is what's taken away from us pre-birth, and it takes years for a baby to develop a new one. The real secret behind the Brotherhood of the Ring is those who maintain their memories in between lives. The third part of the mind is the mind field, a torus-shaped bubble rotating around the dot and ring, just like how a magnetic field is generated from an electrical current. This torus field is where thought forms are generated and held in abstract mental space. We'll get into more detail in a later video when we discuss the anatomy of the mind. But the goal is this, to find the one mind, so beautifully intricate, with depths as vast as the ocean. This mind will serve as the portal to a new universe. The central infinite point resides in us all. It is the 0 point, a mini black hole. Scientists are now starting to acknowledge what the ancient mystery schools knew all along, that the black holes are the fundamental building blocks of the universe. All is mind, and mind is all. Mind is psyche, which means soul. Soul is your connection to the beyond, back to your true self. If you have a soul, then you have nothing to fear, just like the movie Interstellar showed you. But there is a slight problem: the hierarchy. We spoke earlier about the Boston Brahmins. As the hunt for the new Christos mind ensues, they will need a team of elite Brahmins to hold the energetic space for the portal ritual to work and submerge us all into the New Age. So the New Age religion is actually celebrating this interface with mind and machine, and our immersion into a new holographic reality. So, how does this affect our lives today? I'm going to do a whole video on Donald Trump's role in all this, but the reason why certain people in the know are kissing up to him, calling him the chosen one, etc., is because if you are part of his inner circle, he can get you a ticket to the underground, but only if you're part of his inner circle, not a regular voter. Trump doesn't care about Christian nationalism. If Kamala wins, no one's going underground except for the inner elite. She's not going to help minorities. She's a Brahmin. Her mother is from the Brahmin class of old British India. And her father is Jamaican, but I looked closer into his ancestry. He's mostly descended from Irish plantation owners. And I looked into them, and sure enough, just like Kennedy, they're Irish people who aren't really Irish. They're from the Ulster clan, which were Germanic, Nordic, and Scottish people who again settled in Ireland, like the Fitzgeralds. So Kamala is Germanic and a Brahmin. She's only going to help other Brahmins. She's not going to help non-Aryans. Like Biden, she's racist to the core. So why this show? Why pretend like you care about the plight of the underrepresented? Well, I saw that sub-Saharan Africans, Austronesians, and Aboriginals have a very special, ancient connection to the Earth, whereas other ethnic groups are more connected to the moons of our solar system, like Europa, obviously, and Triton and Oberon. I'm going to discuss this in an upcoming video titled Water Worlds, which I'm really excited about. Many people have reported that they remember being in a water world or a lunar world like Avatar, where everything is blue and aquatic. Africans, though, are deeply connected to the green earth. And since we're all on the earth, the controllers target Africans, and by extension, African Americans, because it is especially important to keep them engaged in this matrix simulation and distracted by the political theater. Tony Sayers posted a video recently where he picked up on this too, and I couldn't agree more.
I know also that they don't like the original races, the natives, the Africans. You know, we know what they've done to them over the years, raped and pillaged and destroyed, you know, all their beliefs and information and stuff like that. Maybe they have a more organic version of the human body. I've never really looked into how long they live or, you know, how they live too much. But yeah, it's all questions sort of like I'm pondering at the moment. So.
Yes, the false gods don't want anyone to wake up, but they especially don't want the Africans to wake up and see the full picture of what's going on. They want them in worship, submission, and engrossed in the geopolitical theater. And I don't hear any of the wokest people talking about the matrix simulation, or at least not enough. And that's by design. Because if enough indigenous peoples would stop worshiping these false gods, they could reconnect with Gaia and literally have her shake off these parasitic intruders like a dog shakes off water. Just shimmy shake them off. And so, in conclusion, as the black hole closes in and the number of planets in our solar system goes from 9 to 8 to 7, they search for the one, the ultimate mind, among billions. There's also the search for the missing Brahmins who will be needed to hold open the portal for the shift. If you think you are the one, I suggest keeping it to yourself. You don't want to be advertising that you're Neo. Just focus on connecting with your soul, your psyche, your center point. We live in dangerous times. but also wondrous times. We have a future in the past. How these next few years unfold will be entirely up to you. Hope you guys found that helpful. I know I presented a ton of information. Please check the description for links, sources, and additional material. If you like this video, please consider sharing. If you have a moment, feel free to check out my website. Hope you guys are enjoying your first day of October. Please remember to comment below what you'd like to see next. I've got a lot lined up, so where do you guys want to take this? Thanks again. Bye.